Dive into the heart of Cleveland's business community with the Cleveland Burning Podcast. Join me, Kim Kitchen, owner of Burning River Marketing, and Kirk Teets, owner of Cleveland Custom Coatings, as we explore the untold stories of local business owners. In this engaging series, we focus on the setbacks, accidents, and unexpected turns that pave the way for ultimate success. So just like the Cuyahoga River ignited change in the city, our podcast showcases how adversity can spark innovation and growth. Hear from passionate entrepreneurs who have braved the flames of failure and emerged stronger and more resilient. Get ready for candid conversations and a behind-the-scenes look at the business landscape in Cleveland. What's up, Kirk?
I was out late last night.
Okay.
The wife called me. She was all upset. She's like, if you're not home in 15 minutes, I'm feeding your dinner to the next door neighbor's dog.
All right.
I was home in 5 minutes. There's absolutely no way I wanted anything to happen to that dog.
Nice. Okay. Well, welcome to the Cleveland Burning Podcast, where we uncover stories from local professionals who've braved the flames of adversity and turned them into success. I'm your host, Kim Kitchen.
And I'm Kirk Teets. And today we have the honor of interviewing Chef Jim Cox. I actually met Chef 6 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, it's been that long.
Helped him with he does some revamping, helps restaurants and
Consulting.
Okay.
he does some consulting with them. I know he was big with Mr. Heroes, a very local,
Cool.
large restaurant.
Well known, yeah.
But he was helping a very good local restaurant, Lehman's Deli.
I love their sandwiches.
Absolutely love their food. I've actually been going there for 30 years. I've known George there for a long time, and when I stepped in and met Jim, and we had a really good connection, and they used me to help paint the store and get some of the things ready for what they were doing, and it was a super
Did that
honor.
check clear, by the way? Is that why I'm here?
We'll talk about that
Is that why
later.
I'm here? The check bounced.
No, it was really
great,
great
sir.
working with you, and
Thank you.
and
It was
it's
fun.
an honor to have you here. So we're looking forward to hearing your story. I know you had a lot of success in the chef industry
A
there.
lot of success and a lot of failures.
Absolutely.
But that's life, right?
Absolutely.
If you're able to, at the end of the day, and I'm 65, and at the end of the day, look back, and I was just telling Kim that, like I said, my resume, which is I haven't ever had to use in probably 30 years, from 2005, a lot of the people that have worked for me are still dear friends. They got their kids now, but they were 19, 20 when they first started with me. And that's kind of when you can reflect back and see that you did a good job.
Yeah.
You could be proud of it.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about one of your failures or some wisdom that you can pass on from
Let's
all
back
this?
up a little bit.
Okay.
I'll always like to hear about the success first.
Yeah. So
Well, I would
do
say
you-
that the success is I'm still here, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah, and I retired 4 years ago from chefing or consulting or painting bakeries for Lehman's. That actually was funny. A friend of mine who's cooked there asked me if I would meet with George and see if I could help him out with his menus and stuff. And then he had that space next door, and he walks me over there, and I mean, it was just a mess, an old Quonset hut. And I said, "Well, see, you do." I don't think he was doing breakfast at that time.
No, he
Just
was not.
Great soups, great sandwiches, and I said, well, you got a big traffic flow here on Detroit. He said, I see a bakery, and that's how it started. But I didn't know I was going to be the general contractor. Now, over my career, I've built probably 10 restaurants, some big multi-projects, $6-10 million, and some small, like I owned a Gorilla in Lakewood. It was a ice cream place, a friend of mine, and I invested in it. It had a house on it, and then it had this little ice cream place in front of it.
It was called
And
the Gorilla?
Yeah, that's what I called it.
Oh.
Because I couldn't think of a name of a restaurant because I'm a little uppity. It's Chez Francois or something like
Yeah,
that,
right.
which probably a nice shout out to Johnny and Matt over there. But so I was sitting in my office one day and I did the business plan on it, and I had a big glass of wine in front of me and I was thirsty, so I just downed this thing, and I kind of like leaned back and I started going like this. I'm like itching my arm like a gorilla, and I'm like, that's it. It's a freaking gorilla. So
Okay.
I Googled it, and I found on site a guy out of New York who sold big fiberglass things. So I paid a ridiculous amount of money and had this
For a
gorilla
huge
brought in,
gorilla.
and
Yeah.
you could sit on it, and that's
Yeah.
what it was. So
Neat.
yeah, we kind of made it
Good
a
idea.
neighborhood-friendly thing, and it had a house on the property, so I leased that out to people. And Lakewood, I'm at the eastern end, is very eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
You get a vast array of incomes and stuff, and so I ended up. Carol and I did that for 4 years, and it was successful. It became successful. The first year was a little rough, but we mentored a lot of young adults, and in that neighborhood, there's a lot of kids. You can have Section 8 there, and you can
Yep.
have a $400,000 condo there.
Yeah.
That is true.
And so I still mentor, actually, Josh Plum. He was 6 years old. He was on the gorilla when I came there one time, 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. And I'm carrying a bunch of stuff into the place. I go, what the hell's on the gorilla? And there was a coat, and I pulled the coat back, and there's little blonde-haired kids under it. He pops up, stinky ass breath in the morning, and he's like, can I work for you? And I'm like, what? And I saw him around. So I go, honey, let me put this stuff away. So I put it away, and I took him to the coffee pot, little neighborhood breakfast place, and everybody knew him.
Yeah.
And I bought him breakfast, and kid ate half of it, and he goes, can I take this home with me? I'm like, sure. He goes, because I'd like to give this to my sisters, because he came from a really rough background. I didn't know that at the time. So when you mentor a young person, you mentor the family, and that's what it turned out to. But now he's at St. Ignatius. He's in his second year there.
That's awesome.
He's
That is
16,
great.
and talks like a 16-year-old.
Yep.
But he's a good kid, and I will continue to wish him and support him in his life. And I mentored some people before that too. So, but achievements, life's an achievement, and life also throws you curveballs. I mean, when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for Chi-Chi's back then. Chi-Chi's was, the hot Mexican place. There wasn't
Yeah.
really Mexican
The
places.
chimichanga.
They sold
Chimichanga,
fried ice
yeah.
cream. That's the only place I've ever had fried ice cream.
Right. Yeah. And diluted margaritas. So I started there, and I worked there for a couple of years, and then an opportunity came up at J.J. Getty's in Westlake, and I'm from Westlake originally, and it was the day chef, and I took that position. Some of my moves were always about, obviously money's important, but it was always about maybe gaining more knowledge in the business. That all of a sudden, because I really didn't know what I was going to do when I got out of Marine Corps. I've always cooked, but I didn't know I was going to make that my career.
Right.
And it ended up 40 years later. It's been my career. And but I went to work for J.J. Getty's, and then I built a reputation there, and got hired from a couple guys on the east side that built Tangerine Farley's in the Flats, and that's when the Flats was kind of still the old Flats, but yet the new things were coming in. And I guess in that one is that was a big bite. I was scared. I had the legal pad out, like 6 of them, and kind of self-trained how to handle employees, how to handle food costs, how to handle ordering, how to handle customers.
Right.
It was just and that was a rough one because we sat about 450 people, and this was probably 85. I know that's a long time, but it was probably the hottest restaurant in Cleveland at that time. And this Bernie, the football player, Hanford Dixon and all those guys.
Absolutely.
And it was fun because they'd come in, they'd come through my kitchen, and chef, can you get us into noisemakers? Because there's a big line outside of noisemaker. I'm like, really, guys? I go, you're pro football players. You could just walk in anywhere, but you want to cut through the kitchen. And I'm like, so. But I got to know those guys really well. And I guess in those few things that I just mentioned, there were always struggles, and one was, I'm responsible for millions of dollars, for business people. And I didn't want to hurt them in any way, So it was, 100 hours a week kind of a deal. It was nothing. My first wife, Hope, shout out to Hope, still great friends. Her and my wife get along better than we did. But
That's fun.
yeah, it is fun. And actually, I love their family. But I would just say that some of the things, and I can be more specific, is, where I might have left, like Tangerine Farley's, because I was just, they actually started stealing from their own company. So I was I had vendors that I had relationships with, and I'm like, they're coming to me and going, hey, the check bounce. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're doing $100,000 a week. And I didn't realize that they were pulling money out. And it's way past the limitations of coming after me to sue me for that shit.
Well, isn't that kind of common in the restaurant and bar industry? Like it seems like that's where if you want to launder money, you open up a restaurant or a bar or something. Why do I have that in my head?
Laundering's one thing.
Okay.
Not that I really know the details.
Okay.
Of that. Wink, wink. But, you want the business to survive.
Right.
So we could call skimming would be a better
Okay.
word.
Yes.
Take a little bit, and that was unfortunate because I liked the guys that owned it, and one got greedy, and then the other one saw the other one got greedy, and then it became just a, hole. So
Who can get more?
Yeah,
Right.
who can get more the quickest, blah, blah, blah. And what happened is after that, I had a hard time getting a job. It was weird, but I was probably maybe burning too much at both ends.
Okay.
You're working from 5 in the morning to 2 at night, then you're partying and whatever. And so I probably went through a stage of immaturity, even though I was talented. And that was really humbling. And that's one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that, you can be on top 1 minute, and then the next minute, you can't do crap. I used to always talk to people about, Mr. Hero, I did a bunch of commercials for him and stuff. And, so you go in there, Channel 3, Channel 8, Channel 5, all nice people. But, they give you that, roll out the red carpet. And then as soon as it's cut, you're done. It's like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Right.
get out now.
Get out of here. Yeah, we got somebody else. And I mean, no disrespect to any of those people because they've always been very gracious to me, and I consider them friends. But then I'd go back to the gorilla, and I was just on TV, getting my ass kissed, and now I'm, unplugging the toilet.
Right.
And people would come in and
That's
I'm at the
interesting.
pinnacle of my career,
Right.
and I think it was always fun to keep that perspective as I was getting older and stuff, is that, because and I'm sure you know pro athletes and stuff like that, 1 minute you're the bomb, next minute you're
Nothing.
yeah. I mean, if you listen to the sports radios, if we don't win, they're all assholes and
Right.
stuff like that. And it's like,
What have you done for me lately?
what have
Yeah.
you done for me? And that's kind of, unfortunately, society's kind of turned into that kind of, what's
Even
in it
more
for me?
so.
100%.
So mentally, how do you, how do you get over that? I mean, when you were going through that period of immaturity, and then it sounds like you pulled yourself out of that, and then continued to improve. Like, what was the trigger?
Well, since I was 10, I was working. I mean, I caddied at Lakewood Country Club, so I've always had a work ethic. And I think that's really what happens is you go, okay, what, boo-hoo.
Right.
Let's go. Let's get back on it. And then
Something
you do it.
happens, and you
Something
just like
happens.
pull your head out of your,
Call
what,
it
and
an intervention from
Yep,
God
yep,
or whatever.
yep.
I mean, I have faith and I appreciate that. But you either change back to what really drove you initially, or you sink. And I've had some ups and downs through my career, but the ups far outweigh the downs.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I think as soon as you become comfortable, I've made it, and you're gonna ride
Oh no.
that out. That's probably the biggest mistake a lot of people make, because then you lose the passion.
Yep.
It's like they in boxing they say, once you're sleeping in silk sheets anymore, you're not getting up at 5 o'clock to
Right,
go
you're not a
run 10
Rocky.
miles.
Is that what they say?
Right. That's what happened to Rocky.
That's
Actually,
exactly what happened.
I boxed in the Marine Corps, and I liked hitting people. I had some anger issues back then when I was 23, but I know I don't look like it now. But back in those days, I was in pretty good shape. But yeah, you're right. I think too, now that I'm older and I can reflect back, which when I was probably in my 30s, I had a son, and I was like, okay, where do I see myself in the next 10 years? Because this business, the culinary business, as a lot of other businesses, and when you're the chef, you're better be the owner because you're there just as much and you're touching just as much as of their business as you would if you owned it. And so you're putting 100% into it. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do this, 20 years from now.
you'll get burned out.
I just blocked myself. Where do I see myself in 10 years? And I wrote that down and I made decisions based on that. And then, 30, 40, 50, now 60,
I like that.
Yeah.
Some goal setting so that you don't get burnt out.
Yeah.
Because you do see that in that industry, especially.
I was invited to a seminar way back when I was in my 30s, and a woman was a president of some bank, and she was the head speaker, and I followed her instructions. Write down where you see yourself, write down, personal goals, write down whatever, and then put it away, and then pull it out at the end of the year and see what you can check off. And that came true.
I like
that.
that.
A lot of it came true because subliminally you did that, and so I used that, and I would tell people that work for me, that were much younger, where do you see yourself? Write it down, so I just pass that information along. So
yeah. So what are you doing now? I don't think we talked a lot about your rise as a chef, but
well,
I know you brought in some really fun treats from Orlando.
From the Orlando Baking Company. Well, chefing my whole career, all of it was here. I traveled the country, but Nick Orlando and the Orlando Baking Company supplied most of my restaurants with product.
Okay.
So Nick actually was my salesman. He's now vice president of marketing and sales, but we became very good friends. So when I retired, I told him about it. He goes, "What are you going to do?" I go, "I don't know. Drive a tow motor or be a customer service rep." I go, I don't know. Maybe something that you just go to work at 8, and then you get off at 4, and you don't have to worry about the light bills and the food costs and the employees showing up and blah 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 blah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and you know what? It was because I said, "Wow." So he offered me a position in sales. So I sell bread, which I didn't have that in my 10-year plan.
That wasn't in your plan that you put away.
It was retiring and then just doing whatever. My wife's around my age. I'll say younger to make you feel better, honey. She's older, but
nice.
Yeah. What do they call
Wiser.
her? Cougar. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, she's great. But anyways, so I've worked for them. I mentioned earlier that I started with them a couple months just before COVID hit, and 70% of their business is restaurants, and it just shut off. The wine shut everything down, and I really and as I mentioned, I really think it was just a God kind of a thing that I was there for him because he's 5th generation.
Yep.
He employs 600 employees. He had to lay off 400 of them.
Can you imagine?
Oh,
that had to be hurt.
Yeah.
Hurting the
absolutely
heart.
Yeah. When you go, somebody passes away and you go and see your buddy because his dad passed away and they got that face on him. It was like death. It was like Jesus.
For like a year.
I agree with you, Jim, on the starting the business. Working for yourself. I got tired of working 40 hours a week and making $1,000, so I started this business. Now I work about 80 and make $250.
Yeah, this is much better. Yeah, you should write some goals down and
put
it in a drawer.
Yeah, write that down. I'm going to lose money and work more.
Money and work more.
Yeah. Believe me, it didn't always work out. But I always loved food, and I always loved the people at a table. That probably came from my grandmother and mother, and I was the youngest in the family, so I was pretty much with them a lot. And, there's something to say where you can just get around the table. People don't even get around the table anymore.
Yeah.
They're eating on a tray, so they're watching in front of a TV. I mean, we do that too, but we try to entertain in our house a lot, and it still gives me the opportunity to keep some of my culinary talents sharp, but not like where I'm feeding 400 or 500 every day.
Right.
Right.
I'm like, get the hell out! I got to do the dishes.
Yeah. So how's Orlando doing now?
Yeah.
And what's going on there?
They're doing
fun
better.
And exciting?
They're doing better.
Yep.
They're up and obviously servicing restaurants. Business is good.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing, though, in a lot of people, especially if you own companies, it's hard to get employees.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're
have heard
going,
that.
and that's a big question. What are they doing?
Right.
Well,
You know,
most
the
of them
gu-
are making TikTok videos and
Well,
content on the internet.
that's creative, but
Yep.
how about the others? I mean, they laid off, like I said, about 400 people, and they had an extremely hard time getting people back. I mean,
back, yeah.
literally up to maybe about a couple months ago, where they're not hiring right at
Okay.
this time, but just for specialty, like mechanics and stuff like that. But it's a great company. Everybody knows Orlando's. They're very giving people. The Italian people are very giving, and because there's a lot of fundraising things that I've supported most of my career, the food bank and things like that, where you would think that stuff would slow down, but now they have the National Guard handing out food in Unilot. It's unbelievable.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's huge. They built double the size at the one off of what is it, 90 or whatever. I mean, Kristen Wilsoko over there, who's the president, has done a great job. But, things like that where, maybe that's what it is. Maybe nobody's working, so they're taking free ride food. I don't know. I don't know. But,
Does Mr. Hero use Orlando?
oh, yeah.
I was pretty sure of that.
Since the beginning.
I thought so.
Yeah, since the beginning. And actually, Nick's dad used to deliver the bread.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like
That's
60-some years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
65 years.
Yeah.
It's a long
Actually,
time.
familiar
long
with
time.
Orlando's roles and whatever, and then also I know that Mr. Hero uses them, so
Yeah.
I know there's a connection between your
Yeah,
two
and
places.
that's what happened is, Nick introduced me to Michael Nazar, who was the CEO, and this was 15, well, now almost 19, 20 years ago, but just asked me to help him. They had a chef there one other time, but it didn't work out, and this created their limited time offers. And they pretty much gave me carte blanche on what to do, but it had to be within a certain cost frame, which is when you're selling a sandwich at that time for $3.50 or whatever, that means your ingredients are like less than $1.
Right.
Right.
And that's the first thing I told Nick is when I started, I go, you got to sell them the bun cheaper. I go if I got control. If you're selling them for 25 cents, I need it for 20 cents. I need that nickel somewhere else.
Yep.
So Nick said, what did I create?
So is there anything we can help you do? Is there any like a big client that you're looking to land we can put in a plug for, or anything fun that's going on at Orlando's what can we do for you?
Well, I appreciate that offer, but frankly, I'm good.
Yeah, you seem pretty
Yeah,
good.
I'm good. Usually people are asking me,
First off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I like to help people out. And the funny thing about being a chef is, you feed everybody. Mm-hmm. You feed the concrete guy, you feed the lawyer, you feed the pro athlete, whoever. So my contact list is pretty damn big.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
very
bet.
lucky to have that. But I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
We're tie this in with Orlando's site if we can.
Yeah.
And do that and
Give a plug for
yeah.
Orlando for
Yeah,
sure.
but if anybody needs bread, give me a call at Orlando Baking.
Okay.
I'll get you a good price.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your stories, your inspiring stories of adversity and its role in your ultimate success. How much
Am I
longer?
sexy clothes?
Yeah, see, I do think you're a very well dressed man.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, and we hope you did, please subscribe
Please subscribe.
and leave us a review to help us reach even more listeners. So until next time, remember that every train wreck can be a stepping stone to something extraordinary. And thank you for joining us on the Cleveland Burning Podcast.
See you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you, Jim.